Hey guys, my name is Clayton Kemp, and I'm going to be doing my case study over the super outbreak of 2011. And this refers to a severe weather outbreak that actually spanned 3 days, but I'm going to, for the sake of this, going to focus on April 27th, 2011. And to help lay out the groundwork of what exactly was ongoing at this time, I'm going to show a quick clip to hopefully show the magnitude of what we're dealing with, because some people are going to see this and see it's a big tornado going through a big town. Well, what's the big deal? We've seen Moore, we've seen Joplin. Big tornadoes sometimes go through big towns. What's the big deal? Well, to be clear, this is only one tornado. We had several tornadoes that looked very similar to this one ongoing at the same exact time as this one was going through Tuscaloosa, a city of 100,000 people. And that's just resident population. We're not talking about students on the at the University of Alabama. So you're talking another 10, 20, 30, 40,000 students there. So hopefully this will give you kind of a picture in your mind of what we're talking about as we go through this.
It looks like it's going to be the southern part of the city of Tuscaloosa with the greatest issues here. But again, you're seeing the last image we were able to show you of a large wedge tornado coming up into Tuscaloosa. This is the radar clearly showing that this thing is wrapped up maybe along Interstate 5920. This is McFarland Boulevard. Right?
We got it back. We got it back. Here it goes.
Let's pan over to the left.
Oh, my goodness.
Goodness.
Look at that.
Are you kidding me?
Look at all the stuff flying around up there.
That's coming over. Near Interstate 359 in Skyland. Nobody should be out there. This thing is going to be coming basically right down Skyland Boulevard. This is an extremely violent situation. Notice the power flashes. Please.
It just past the Tuscaloosa County or the Tuscaloosa City Police Department.
The police department is down there.
It's crossing over the industrial area in South Tuscaloosa near all the places where they take the cars when you have an accident. If you're down that way, down Greensboro, it's on you now. It's moving toward McFarland. If you're between Greensboro and McFarland, south of Bryant and south of University, get to a safe place right now.
Right. So again, everybody near Skyland Boulevard, be in a safe place. Everybody in the city limits of Tuscaloosa, be in a safe place. We can clear.
So this shows you, I mean, as I said, this is one tornado of several that were ongoing at the same exact moment as that one was going through Tuscaloosa. So to jump right quick, this was a 3-day event over 72 hours, if you do the math, 21 states, 349 tornadoes. And for the sake of this, we are going to try to focus on April 27th alone, which ended up being the most violent and deadly day of storms, which primarily impacted Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, and Georgia. On that day, we saw 303 tornado warnings with 207 confirmed tornadoes across 15 states on that one single day. And we had warning in advance. We saw this coming almost a week ahead of time. We saw the ingredients in place you see there that were coming into play. One researcher even said, looking back at this was an environment that he has never seen, and likely, looking at the scope of this, a lot of us will never see ever again. So now that we got our forecast, we know things are going to get bad in the afternoon, and even the night before, we were predicting strong to severe thunderstorms were going to be moving in overnight before these big storms in the afternoon even developed. And they were expecting, hail, high winds, kind of your normal spring thunderstorms, Be ready for them, but they're not going to be nearly as bad as the afternoon ones. And while part of that was true, that forecast was vastly underestimated the strength of these morning storms. They came in as a squall line moving in from Mississippi. They affected Mississippi, Alabama, East Tennessee, and northern Georgia. And you can see they produced 76 tornadoes, which is relatively unheard of for an early morning type, not out of the heat of the day tornado outbreak in itself. And after we thought maybe after this big first line, maybe we were going to get a break. Well, that break was very short-lived. By mid-morning, time at 9, 10 a.m., we had more storms develop and produce another 7 tornadoes across many of the same affected areas. The damage done by the morning storms was very significant. It would come to complicate matters in the afternoon. We had 250,000 people without power. Power was knocked out to outdoor warning sirens, which a lot of people rely on to get their warnings, which we're going to get to that here in a little bit as far as that being an incorrect strategy for people. Weather radio transmission towers were non-functional due to either wind damage or tornado damage. And then we had major infrastructure damage. We had internet outages. We had power outages, just to complicate matters as far as getting warning out in the afternoon. In the afternoon, this was the big thing that we had been preparing for. We knew it was going to be bad, but we didn't know just how bad it was going to get. So now that we're in the afternoon theater of this, if you will, across Alabama alone, we have 62 tornadoes reported and confirmed. 8 of these were classified as violent tornadoes, EF4 or EF5. And the Huntsville, Alabama National Weather Service office, they issued 92 tornado warnings that day alone. And it's the National Weather Service objective to try to get 15 minutes of lead time when it comes to tornado warnings and severe thunderstorm warnings. So you can see that day, we thought we were doing a great job. We were getting people 20 to 22 minutes of warning time to seek shelter. And we're going to start seeing why the death toll, what it was, and what some of the complications we saw in the morning from the morning storms as far as knocking out power and utilities, possibly making the casualties much more severe than they should have been. And continuing in the afternoon, we had numerous tornadoes on the ground. We had these large violent tornadoes that we saw in Tuscaloosa going through cities, causing damage, causing casualties. To complicate matters, these storms were moving extremely fast for thunderstorms. They were going anywhere from 45 to 70 miles per hour. So you can imagine a car on the interstate. And to put that in even more perspective, 60 miles per hour, that's 1 mile per minute. And of the average tornado damage path of the 15 EF4, EF5, those are the violent tornadoes, was 66 miles. The EF5 that hit Hackleburg and Phil Campbell, it was on the ground for 132 miles. It started in Mississippi and ended in Alabama. This ended up being the strongest tornado that they found, the estimated winds of 210 miles per hour. And going to the aftermath, the damage was bad. You can see this is a mobile home, which there's a lot of mobile home residents in Alabama. And as we all learned in school, evacuate your mobile homes, which a lot of people did not do, man, because they did not have warning that we're going to come to find out. So after all this is all said and done, we had 324 tornado fatalities and 348 total fatalities from storm-related damage. In Alabama alone, 35 of the 67 counties that make up Alabama were affected. And in 19 of those counties, we had deaths. 43 of the counties in Alabama were declared federal disaster areas. Of those deaths in the top bullet point, 247 of those happened in Alabama alone. A report that came out afterward looking into the fatalities in this event found that females and older adults were more at risk to be killed in this event. Most of the deaths were trauma-related, either from blunt or penetrating. A majority were found deceased in single-family homes. They found that the most common warning mechanism was actually word of mouth from friends and family, possibly going back to the massive infrastructure damage we saw in the morning, making warning from TV outlets, radio, and weather radio inoperable. That way people weren't getting the warnings except from people that they knew. In Tuscaloosa, as far as patients go and people that were injured, DCH Regional Medical Centers treated more than 900 patients related to the storm. Another hospital there, Northport Medical Center, saw another 200. And the DCH Regional Medical Center was actually missed by a half a block by this tornado. So you can see how this could have been a whole lot worse than it already was. And this is a plot that shows all the severe weather reports that day. As you can see, this is almost half the United States essentially affected by this. Back down in the hardest hit areas, though, we had 300 transmission towers that were damaged. We had 2 power plants that were forced to shut down for an extended period of time. Tuscaloosa alone, one of the hardest hit cities, 12.6% of the city was destroyed. Caused $10.8 billion of damage across the southeast. And in Alabama alone, we had significant economic damage. We saw plenty of jobs lost, a significant portion of tax collections cut out. A large portion of GDP lost. That's over $1 billion in loss. Going to emergency management, though, there were certain things that they saw that went well. The biggest thing to remember is that this was an event that had really never been seen before. It was historic. The last one that could be equivalent to this was back in the 70s. That was actually named the Super Outbreak in the 1970s. But this event, being far more worse than that event, actually took over the name of that event, and it's now known as the Super Outbreak of 2011. One of the positives, they saw state officials react quickly. As soon as they saw what was going on, they put National Guard troops on the ground to help patrol streets and help people that needed it. First responders and local governments worked well together. They had a quick response. Volunteer organizations were quick to assist and help out those in need. FEMA was really quick to be on their grounds to help with recovery efforts. These were the things they thought that went well. There were a lot of things they think that should have been better, and we're going to title this Lessons Learned. And the Emergency Management of Alabama actually put together an article discussing these, and they broke it down into certain groups where they wanted to see things get better in. The first one of these groups was prepare. They wanted to see safe rooms installed in new and old businesses. They wanted to see storm shelters that were run by cities more easily identifiable for people to know where they were. They want to have better building codes. They want to have better construction. They want buildings that would have a better chance of withstanding more low wind to moderate severe weather. They wanted power and utility groups to come together and actually make a workforce group. That way that all these utilities can be put back into place more quickly than that was experienced in this tragedy. And they also wanted to increase awareness from sky warning classes. They wanted people to know what outdoor warning sirens are used for, that they're used for people that are outside, not people that are asleep. And they also wanted to encourage people to have two methods of receiving warning information, whether that's from a TV, regular radio, weather radio, or smart apps on your phone. The next one being warn. They wanted to put in a more precise storm alert system. They actually wanted to use a subscription system to have people sign up for it, very similar to the way that we receive lockdown information on college campuses. They wanted to use a similar type of technology to get that warning out much more quickly. They wanted to ensure people had easy access to weather radios, making them more affordable, making them easy to get. And maybe the biggest ongoing thing is that atmospheric research. There's a lot of stuff meteorologists don't know about the atmosphere. They don't know why one storm produces a tornado and why one doesn't. A lot of times having false warnings that you have a tornado warning issued that doesn't produce a tornado, a lot of times that can build up the complacency in people. So the more accurate warnings that are issued, the more the people are going to pay attention and seek shelter. The next section being respond. They wanted to see emergency management training. They wanted to see people get the proper training and then be assessed on their training and to ensure they're able to respond to such an emergency. They want to establish radio communications in between different sections of emergency response, that being fire, EMS, police, and then the emergency management agency. That way that information is being shared in between all these branches. Healthcare. They wanted to see hospitals be more prepared to handle a lot of patients in a short amount of time. They wanted to have mass casualty drills. That way hospitals can be graded to see what needs to be improved on, what resources do they need to be able to adequately respond to such an emergency. Volunteers. Volunteers were a big part of the recovery effort in this tragedy. They want to have a better way of getting volunteers into the correct areas to be able to offer what they have to offer. Recovery. This is the final category that they had, and this is focusing on trying to get that normalcy about people's lives once again. Housing recovery and economic recovery are very similar. They wanted to have the capability of supplying low interest loans for people to rebuild houses, rebuild businesses, to keep people in the state of Alabama. The scope of this tragedy, debris removal, was a huge thing. When you have so many communities being affected, so much damage being done, they found that debris removal was significantly delayed. And they saw that if cities and local governments had a pre-existing contract with someone to have this debris removed, that would help people be able to reestablish their sense of community and get back to their sense of normalcy once again. And that concludes my presentation on the super outbreak of 2011. Hopefully I'll supply some good information to you guys. Good luck to all the rest of the semester, and we'll see y'all down the road.